Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Thank you for being here. In this video, I will walk you through the experience for a 7-day round trip from Seattle, Alaska cruise on Princess Cruise Line. And this one was including Glacier Bay. It was Saturday to Saturday, so I'm going to walk you through the experiences from day one, talk you through each port, things to do on the ship, things like that. And then at the end, I'm going to offer a ton of tips, so hopefully you can stay tuned for that. I'd also recommend checking the comments of the video and leaving your comments and questions below, because on my other videos, and hopefully this one as well, a lot of people provide some really great insights there that can be super helpful also. So let's get into it. Now, first of all, I want to show you the itinerary. This is what the cruise did. Round trip from Seattle, again, Saturday to Saturday. And we had a sea day and then went to Juneau, Alaska, followed by Skagway, Alaska, did some scenic cruising in Glacier Bay, which was really cool. And then went down to Ketchikan, Alaska, and a final stop in Victoria, Canada. So that gives you an overview of where we went, where this cruise goes. So here we are. We left Saturday evening from Seattle and sailed through Sunday on our way to Juneau. And that Sunday night was formal night, which I'll give you some more tips for at the end of the video, what to expect with that. We arrived in Juneau on Monday. And one of the things I highly recommend is doing the tram. It's walking distance from the ship, maybe a few hundred meters, if that. And amazing views, you guys. I loved it. I wasn't sure what to expect, but absolutely loved it. And just loved being at the top of this mountain and looking around. And then, man, additionally, once you get up there, there's some hikes that you can do. And you could go as far as you wanted on those hikes, on those trails. Or if you just hike a little bit, I don't know, a few hundred meters, you can get even better views than the top of the tram. But super accessible and well worth it for the views and just being out in nature. Highly recommend that. And the other thing I recommend as far as excursions is the Mendenhall Glacier excursion. And what we did was the bus takes you out from Juneau, like 15-20 minute drive, I think, and then it plops you at the visitor center for the Mendenhall Glacier, and you can hike about 1 mile to what's called Nugget Falls. I highly recommend it. It was a lush trail, beautiful views out here. This is Nugget Falls. And you can't see Mendenhall Glacier from here, really, but you can see it from the visitor center. And I just loved doing this, and man, really felt like I was out in Alaska on this one. So definitely highly recommend that. I'll show you some more views here. So those were the two excursions that I thought were the most worth it in Juneau, but there's definitely several other amazing ones. The seaplanes looked pretty fun, and kayaking. Juneau was, I think, the best port for kayaking. Lots of things like that. One final note about Juneau with regards to shopping. So everything's walkable. First of all, you can walk there just from the ship. No need for an Uber or anything. And I was concerned that I would regret buying things in Juneau not knowing what was in the other ports. But what I found was Skagway and Ketchikan had pretty much the same flavor of things as Juneau, just less variety. So I would say if you want to do a lot of shopping at Juneau, shop to your heart's content. You'll have the most variety there and the most options. So I wish I'd known that when I had went. So Juneau was Monday, Skagway was Tuesday most of the day. And it's not a very big town. It has a lot of rich history with mining. There's a lot to do outdoors here as well. But I found that it was a lot of just the same old shopping downtown. And one note was that we had to use the little ferry boats to get to the shore, which was it was like 100 meters, super short because of a landslide that had occurred a couple years back. But one that wasn't any trouble at all, and was very quick and easy to get to and from the ship. But one thing that we truly enjoyed was the railroad tour. And it seems that most people on the ship do this. It's probably the primary excursion in Skagway. I recommend it. I think it was about 2 or 2.5 hours long, and great views and just fun to go on a railroad, see everything there is to see. So that was the highlight in Skagway for me. I know there's other things like a zip line activity and food and other excursions you can do. But Skagway was fun. Definitely recommend the railroad, and you can do some more shopping and see some shows if you want. The next day after we left Skagway, so Wednesday morning through Wednesday afternoon, we did Glacier Bay Scenic cruising. And this was the most beautiful, most serene part of the trip for me. Just incredible to be out here. We saw 2 glaciers, and the ship actually went into these bays and just circled. It rotated rather, so you could really take in the scenery. They had park experts from Glacier Bay National Park on board, and they provided some narration as we went through Glacier Bay. And also, as you exit the area heading down south, they say that's the highest likelihood of seeing wildlife, like whales and things of that sort. So keep your eyes peeled as you leave the bay. And overall, just a wonderful experience, and definitely got some great photos and enjoyed it. The last stop in Alaska was Ketchikan, and it was a beautiful port, and that was Thursday morning for about 5 or 6 hours. And really the big ticket item here was the Lumberjack show. I think most people on the cruise go to this. I recommend it. It was a lot of fun. And here we see a few of the things that they do there from their website. You weren't allowed to take video during the show, but I got a few photos. And then after that, we actually had signed up for a little axe throwing competition as well. So we got to do some of that just over to the side outside the Lumberjack show, and it was a lot of fun. And besides that, there were some other excursions in Ketchikan we didn't participate in just for the sake of time, but we did a little bit more shopping and got back on the ship. All right, Victoria, Canada was the last stop on the cruise before returning to Seattle, and this was Friday night, about 7 p.m. to midnight, so you don't have a lot of time here. You do not need a passport for to visit Canada if you're a U.S. citizen from the pier, from the port. So that was something we were kind of wondering about, but you do not need a passport. This is Fisherman's Wharf. That was within walking distance. For us, it was about a mile from the pier, so that was kind of fun to just walk through some of Canada for us as American citizens and see that. And then the Butchart Gardens is one that we didn't get to, but I wish we would have. Time just wasn't on our side for this, but lots of beautiful flowers and vegetation, and man, I wish I could have fit this in, and Fisherman's Wharf. And Fisherman's Wharf was all closed down by the time we got there. We had a kind of a later dinner and then left the ship, but lots of cool, fun little shops and buildings to see at Fisherman's Wharf. So let me show you a map here of Fisherman's Wharf and the Butchart Gardens and how to get there. You can walk to Fisherman's Wharf if you want to walk about a mile. Wasn't too bad for us. But then the Butchart Gardens, you'd have to take a bus or taxi or something of that nature, because it's pretty far away. So that gives you an idea of kind of the landscape of Victoria, and there's also some nightlife there and things like that, but it was a fun little stop for us. All right, so that's really the end of the cruise. get into Seattle again around 7 a.m. Saturday, and you can get off pretty much any time before about 9 a.m. But if you want them to take your luggage down, you're supposed to select a time for it, and the night before you leave your luggage outside your room. All right, so now I want to just give you a bunch of tips, a bunch of bonus tips about the cruise and insights that I hope will be helpful to you. These were things that I was wondering about before I left and that I found out on the cruise, so maybe you're wondering the same things. So, tip number 1, how to see whales. So what I found, if you want to see whales, you have to just spend time looking at the ocean. And I actually saw 4 whales, at least the spouts. We saw 2 breaches, but 3 of those 4 times were as I was running on the treadmill looking out the glass that overlooks the sea in the gym, because I was there for a half hour, 45 minutes. And the other time was in the buffet, just by the windows. So if you want to see whales, just sit somewhere or be places where you're near the ocean. I wanted to give you a few tips on what to do in Seattle. Many of you may be interested in exploring Seattle. It's a really cool place. I've been there a couple times myself. And so I wanted to show you kind of some things to do and how to orient yourself. So if we look down here, this place that I'm zoomed in on right now is downtown Seattle, where there's all these places to visit. Up here at my mouse right now is the Smith Cove Cruise Terminal. Pier 91 was the pier where the Princess Cruise took off from. So over here you got the Space Needle. So that gives you an idea of orientation. And the Seattle airport is down here where my mouse is at SeaTac. That's the airport. It's about a half-hour drive up to downtown Seattle and to the cruise terminal. 20 minutes to 30 minutes around there. But a few things to do are visit the Space Needle. Very cool experience. Also the Seattle Aquarium, the Great Wheel, that's like a Ferris wheel. Some underground tours where you can see old Seattle, what it used to be like, literally beneath the streets. There's the iconic gum wall and the Seattle Art Museum and Pike Place Market. Now, if I were to suggest one thing to do, it would be the Space Needle. If I were to suggest 2 things to do, it would be Pike Place Market and the Space Needle. Just my personal opinion. Ivory's is also a really delicious restaurant. I loved it. Right by the ocean. You can have window seats overlooking the ocean. Great seafood and a great environment. So those are a few recommendations of things to do either before or after your cruise that I wanted to provide you with, as well as how to orient yourself around Seattle. And just a note, make sure you pay attention to all the documentation for your cruise to make sure this is indeed where your cruise will be taking off from. I don't imagine that would change, but you know, it could change. There are other cruises that leave from other ports as well. So there's that overview of Seattle. Now I wanted to give you a first-hand view of the terminal because it was a little bit disorienting for us and we showed up early. So it was kind of a mess. I don't recommend showing up early, actually. We had to wait around outside and it was just really busy and crowded. So we got here around 10 or 10:30, had to wait a half hour or so, and then eventually went into these doors. And your shuttle or bus or Uber, what have you, will drop you off somewhere around here. And so then we entered into those doors and showed documentation and the QR code on the app, got our medallion, and waited another half hour, and around 11:30 or noon, I think, we actually got onto the ship. So I want to show you a little tour as well of our room, and I'll speed through this, but just wanted to give you an idea if you haven't been on a Princess cruise before. This is our inside stateroom. There were 3 of us in it, and feel free to pause this part if you want to see any more detail, but just wanted to give you a little glimpse there of the room. Also, just a note about how you actually get in your room. You have what's called a medallion, and it's a lanyard or bracelet depending on what you request from Princess, and it's got a little chip in there, and you get within a certain proximity of your room and the door opens. Within a few feet of your room and the door opens. It also serves as a cool locator on the ship, so they know where to bring your food. When you order food, they can bring it right to you. You can locate your shipmates as well if you all join in the same party. And you can also see where you are at on the ship. So quite a handy little thing. Hey, I wanted to give you a tip on canceling gratuities. So obviously completely up to you, but in my personal opinion, gratuities is just another way for the cruise ship to make money. And so you get charged over $100 extra if you pay gratuities, and it's automatic if you do not cancel it. However, I prefer to just tip at my discretion. For example, we tipped the lady that cleaned our room. She was awesome, and she answered questions for us and was very communicative and helpful. So we gave her a nice tip at the end of the cruise, but we didn't like that we were forced to, or rather that it was automatically incurred that we would pay an extra $100+ each for gratuities. So to cancel those, if you would like to do so, you can just go anytime that you're on the ship. You have to do this before you get off the ship. You can just go to the customer service desk and say, I'd like to cancel gratuities or cancel the gratuity charge. They'll know exactly what you're talking about, and it takes 1 minute and your gratuities are canceled, and you won't owe that $100 and something. So wanted to give you that tip, just my personal opinion. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful for you. Food. I have several tips for you with regards to food. First of all, room service is 24/7. That was neat. I love that. So you can order food to your room. Not everything, but a nice sampling of food to your room whenever you want. And that was great. And it can also be delivered to you almost anywhere on the ship. They use your medallion to track where you're at, and you can select in the app when you're ordering your food, deliver to me, and they'll find you. However, you can't get food in a lot of the main rooms, like the lounges, like the Vista Lounge or the theater, places like that. But you can often get drinks in some of those. So just keep that in mind. And let's see, a note about reserving dining. Do it sooner rather than later if you'd like an early dining time. Otherwise, you may get later dining times for the main dining halls. So, well in advance of the cruise, do that, I suggest. The Horizon Buffet was great. Definitely loved the convenience of that. And a note about the beverage package. What is included there is a lot of drinks. So a lot of specialty drinks, a lot of wines and beers and alcoholic drinks, a lot of smoothies, teas. However, I have heard that it's often more expensive than just paying for the drinks that you do get. That may not apply for everybody, but often that is the case. It's cheaper to just pay for drinks that you get instead of paying the however many dollars per day that it is for the drink package. But for free, you can usually get basic coffees, hot chocolate, basic juices, things like that. Okay guys, to finish off, I'm going to give you a few more rapid fire tips. So first of all, formal nights. I was wondering how out of place I might feel if I didn't bring formal attire. And I didn't really feel out of place, actually. There's a lot of people on the ship who don't dress up for formal nights, which occur on the sailing days typically. So there were two, a Sunday night, and I can't remember the other one. But just in the main dining areas and like the main areas where people hang out, there were a lot of people dressed out, so I felt a little bit out of place in those areas, but most of the ship, it felt completely fine. I'm a more casual kind of guy myself, but I know a lot of people really enjoyed the dress up part of it. So it'll be fine either way. And let's see, next, I wanted to talk about shopping again. I want to reiterate, most shopping can be done on Juneau. You don't have to feel like you need to wait because you won't be sure what you'll get on the other at the other ports. You can feel free to shop to your heart's content at Juneau because that's the most variety. And it's pretty much the same stuff on the other ports, in my opinion. Also, you can wait until the last day if you'd like to buy jewelry. There's always discounts on the last day. That was the same when I went on a Norwegian cruise line. So it seems like a pretty normal thing for them to do. Heavy discounts on the last day for jewelry. And also, one note, if you want to get a more unique souvenir, look for Ivory. Ivory, for example, Billikens. They're ivory Billikens or other ivory. It's one of the few places that you can actually legally buy ivory is in Alaska. So that would definitely be a very unique gift or souvenir for yourself or for someone else. One note about the casino, it's not always open. If you're into gambling or hanging out down there, it's only open when you're offshore a certain distance or in international waters or something like that. I wasn't 100% sure on that, but it was not always open. So just be aware of that. You can't just go down anytime. But they'll let you know when it opens up. I highly encourage you to take a look at the papers that they leave in your rooms every day. Those have very good information and very necessary information to review. So definitely take the time to review those. And then also as far as weather and attire, I went in May, late May, and a light to medium jacket was perfect for me. There was some rain and it was 50s to 60s during the day. I often found myself overheating during the day with my jacket, but then at night I definitely wanted it. So just kind of depends on the weather, but light to medium jacket, that's good to repel rain is what I suggest.